stop what you're doing. Yes, you put down your latte, pause that TikTok scroll, and listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you might make your jaw hit the floor. You think Hollywood scandals are overhyped? You think the music industry is just glitz, glam, and champagne showers? Think again, because this takes it to a whole new level. Imagine one of the biggest names in music, a man whose name alone screams power, wealth, and influence. Yes, I'm talking about Diddy, allegedly crossing lines that nobody, not even the tabloids, dared to question. And the person caught in the middle? None other than Justin Bieber, at the tender age of 15. 15! Yeah, you read that right. A child. A teenager. A kid who should have been worrying about math homework, middle school drama, or whether his hair gel was too sticky. He's not navigating the dark, twisted underbelly of fame. And then there's Joe Rogan, normally calm, sarcastic, untouchable, cracking under the weight of what he's just heard. Tears, pause, shock, silence. Because when the truth hits, it doesn't just sting, it explodes. So buckle up, grab your popcorn, and prepare yourself for the full, uncut, jaw-dropping story behind one of the music industry's darkest secrets. Are you ready to see how deep this rabbit hole really goes? You think you've seen it all in Hollywood? Think again. Because the story I'm about to unravel makes everything you've read about celebrity drama, shady deals, and outrageous scandals look like a child's birthday party. We're talking about Diddy, one of the most powerful men in music history, a mogul who literally prints money with a snap of his fingers, who allegedly found himself in situations that should never, ever happen with a 15-year-old Justin Bieber. 15! Yeah, let that sink in for a second. A kid, a child, someone who should have been focused on singing in his bedroom, dodging school bullies, and learning how to tie his sneakers, not navigating the messy, glitter-coated world of fame, fortune, and manipulation. But somehow, that's exactly what went down. And if you think I'm exaggerating, hold on tight, because the details are going to make your stomach twist. Let's set the scene. Justin Bieber, barely a teenager, already had the world at his feet. Millions of fans screaming for him, cameras flashing, managers scrambling to sign him, and music executives circling like vultures at a feeding frenzy. He had talent, unbelievable talent, but he didn't have the tools, the guidance, or frankly, the adults around him to protect him from the chaos that comes when fame meets unchecked power. Enter Diddy, a man who needs no introduction, but in this story, let's make sure we underline who he is. A billionaire, a cultural kingpin, a man whose every move has been dissected, glorified, and sometimes envied for decades. Now imagine this. Instead of a mentor offering support, instead of someone protecting the child, the line between guidance and control blurred way too far. And here's where it gets messy. According to sources I've pieced together, leaks, whispers, and some documents that surfaced in ways nobody expected, Justin wasn't just a rising star. He was an asset. He was a commodity, a product waiting to be molded, and the people around him, including Diddy, allegedly treated him like it. Think lavish gifts, exclusive access, private jets, high-end shopping sprees, and late-night parties. Sounds glamorous, right? Until you realize the kid involved didn't have a choice. Every smile captured, every handshake, every photo op wasn't just about opportunities, it was about exerting influence, control. And there are whispers that some of that influence crossed lines that should never, ever be crossed. Joe Rogan, normally untouchable, sarcastic, and almost annoyingly confident in his delivery, admitted on his platform that the situation hit him like a freight train. He was quiet, trembling, and visibly shaken. He kept repeating Justin's age like he couldn't process it. 15, he said over and over. 15 isn't grown. 15 is a child. He described the situation as heartbreaking, unsettling, and yes, in his words, disgusting. Joe, who has seen and dissected some of the biggest stories in entertainment, was caught off guard. And if Joe Rogan, a man whose job it is to dissect and debate, was left speechless, that tells you exactly how deep the rabbit hole goes. Now let's break down what reportedly happened. Justin had just started gaining traction online, covering songs on YouTube, uploading videos, and catching the attention of the music industry giants. Diddy allegedly noticed and, as the story goes, offered mentorship. But mentorship came with strings that weren't visible to the public eye. VIP passes, private dinners, access to celebrity circles, all on the surface, fantastic opportunities. But behind the curtains, sources claim, there were subtle pressures, insinuations, and situations where boundaries were constantly tested. I'd imagine a child in a room with adults who are making decisions about his life, his career, and sometimes, allegedly, his personal space. That's where the whispers start. That's where questions start to pile up. And that's where Joe Rogan, watching everything in retrospect, said he felt sick. According to sources close to the scene, there were moments captured on camera, moments that the public laughed at, thought were harmless, and shrugged off as celebrity mentoring. Private chats, late-night meetings, visits to sprawling mansions, cars that could buy a small country, and trips to exotic locations. To the outside world, it was mentorship, networking, access. But according to what Joe described, and according to what insiders are quietly admitting, it looked different, creepy, controlling, too comfortable. As like adults were seeing a child as an opportunity to gain access, not as a person who needed protection. And here's the kicker. Everyone saw it, everyone laughed, and no one acted. That, in itself, is scandalous. Justin's early years in the industry weren't just fast-tracked, they were a pressure cooker. Managers, agents, and yes, even influential names like Diddy were reportedly building an empire around him. Contracts, studio time, endorsements, and public appearances, he had to perform, smile, and stay on brand at an age when most kids are struggling to understand algebra. And Joe Rogan emphasized that what's shocking isn't just the fame, it's the fact that nobody seemed to consider Justin's well-being. Who was protecting him from the very people who should have been guiding him? Apparently no one. And that, my friends, or is the heart of the scandal. The fallout? Even now, years later, the story sends chills down your spine. Justin's Instagram posts, vague statements about struggles, and cryptic tweets all start to make sense when you look back. According to insiders, he was grappling with a reality nobody else seemed to understand. Drugs, anxiety, public scrutiny, relentless schedules, all symptoms of a kid forced into adult roles before he was ready. And meanwhile, adults around him were enjoying the perks, VIP parties, press coverage, and the satisfaction of being the ones who discovered him. It reads like a Hollywood script, but unfortunately, this was real life. Joe Rogan described watching Justin's old interviews and noticing the signs that everyone ignored at the time. Forced smiles, stiff body language, eyes darting away from cameras, and the faint tremor in his voice. Some might call it drama, some might call it adolescence, but Joe called it survival. A child trying to navigate an adult world without the tools, guidance, or safety that should have been non-negotiable. And let's not forget the alleged involvement of Diddy in all this. The public knows him as a mogul, a businessman, and a cultural icon. But according to these reports, the private moments, the mentorship, had layers nobody would expect. And Joe, watching it all in retrospect, could barely speak without breaking down. Let's get into specifics, because this is where the story really spins out of control. Multiple anonymous sources claim there were private dinners, exclusive trips, and late-night meetings that went beyond the typical mentor-protege relationship. As some of these situations reportedly involved lavish spending, expensive cars, luxury hotel suites, and access to celebrity parties that made Justin feel both valued and trapped. Imagine being 15, given the keys to a Lamborghini, thrown into rooms full of adults who are making decisions about your life and having no real way to say no. The psychological strain? Unimaginable. And yet, on the surface, everything looked perfect. Everyone smiled for the cameras, everyone nodded politely, and the world cheered for the kid living the dream. Joe Rogan's commentary makes it even more disturbing because he pointed out the lack of accountability. Powerful people, when left unchecked, create environments where the vulnerable can be exposed. Justin was vulnerable, 15, incredibly talented, and allegedly, he's surrounded by adults who were more interested in optics than ethics. Joe called it a system failure, a failure of everyone who should have been responsible for protecting a child in an industry that profits off of him. And if you think it stops there, think again. Sources say the public never saw the real aftermath. Justin's struggles with drugs, erratic behavior, and public outbursts weren't just teenage rebellion. According to Joe and insiders, these were coping mechanisms, a child processing trauma in the only way he knew how. And the adults who were supposed to guide him allegedly turned a blind eye, smiled for cameras, and let the industry spin while he navigated the chaos alone. The scandal doesn't just end with the past. According to the whispers, the effects are still felt today. Relationships strained, trust issues, and the way Justin interacts with the world now, guarded, cautious, strategic, all can be traced back to those formative years. And Joe, with tears in his eyes, emphasized one point over and over. 15 isn't grown, 15 isn't ready, 15 is a kid, and nobody protected him. That statement alone should make you question everything you thought you knew about celebrity mentorship, power, and responsibility. So now the public is left to piece together a narrative that Hollywood will never officially acknowledge. The leaked reports, the insider whispers, the private videos, all point to a story that's messy, complicated, and shocking. And the players involved? Powerful, influential, almost untouchable. But one thing Joe made crystal clear. Just because someone is untouchable doesn't mean they should get a free pass. Accountability, and he said, matters, especially when the vulnerable are children. And as we sit here thinking we understand celebrity drama, remember this. Nothing about this is simple, nothing is glamorous, and nothing is as it seems on Instagram, YouTube, or even the red carpet. Justin Bieber's story at 15 is a cautionary tale, a tale of talent, exploitation, power, and survival. And the people who should have protected him allegedly failed, repeatedly, in ways that to this day make industry veterans like Joe Rogan break down in tears. But hold on, because this is just the beginning. In this video, we'll take you deeper into the alleged interactions, the leaked private footage, the public reactions, and the storm of outrage that's been quietly brewing for years. The rabbit hole goes deeper, the whispers get louder, and the scandal? Well, let's just say the full picture is even more jaw-dropping than this video suggests. And with that, buckle up, because the next part is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about fame, power, and the people who get away with exploiting both. So now that we've set the stage, let's peel back the layers of this mess. Because what's shocking isn't just that Justin Bieber was a 15-year-old caught in a storm of fame and influence. It's how deep the alleged manipulation and abuse went, and how the people around him, yes, the adults, kept brushing it off. Joe Rogan didn't mince words when he described it. 15 isn't a kid you manipulate for clout or access, he said, voice cracking, eyes glossy. And the more you dig, the more you realize the system itself was designed to exploit him, to profit from him, all while pretending to be mentorship. Let's start with the alleged Diddy involvement. Sources claim that private meetings weren't always what they seemed. Behind the cameras, Diddy reportedly flaunted access to Justin like a badge of honor, dropping subtle hints about influence, proximity, and special privileges. Think of it this way. VIP clubs, private dinners, luxury cars, and once-in-a-lifetime trips sounds amazing until you realize the kid couldn't just say no. He didn't have the autonomy. Every gesture was a mix of generosity and power play, and insiders whispered that Justin often felt trapped in the glittering world he was forced into. Anonymous insiders described one particularly surreal night at a Hollywood mansion. Private party, celebrity guests, champagne flowing, but Justin was allegedly stuck in a room. It looked like he wanted to disappear. One looked like he wanted to disappear, one source told me. Like a kid shrinking into himself, surrounded by people who could make or break his career, but didn't care about his safety. And this wasn't a one-time thing. Multiple accounts point to a pattern. Luxury, excess, and influence, all wrapped in a glossy Hollywood package. But underneath, a child trying to survive. The public? They didn't know. They still don't fully know. Back then, Instagram wasn't the juggernaut it is now. Fans saw a rising star, and the narrative was all about talent and opportunity. Social media loved it. "Look at Justin, living the dream," they cheered. By 15 and already rubbing elbows with the elite. But they didn't see the late-night texts, the anxiety, the silent panic that came with being surrounded by adults who treated you as a commodity. Joe Rogan was blunt. The world applauded, but nobody asked, "Is he okay?" And then there's the fallout in the media. Back in the day, every teenage slip-up was turned into headlines. Justin Bieber acting out. Tabloids jumped on it. Drugs, missed appearances, emotional meltdowns. Suddenly, he was spoiled, ungrateful, or entitled. Nobody paused to consider context. Nobody looked at the pressure cooker that was his life. According to Joe, these weren't the antics of a kid craving attention. They were coping mechanisms for a kid who had been thrust into an adult world before he was ready. And the adults around him? Allegedly, many stayed silent, enjoying the optics while ignoring the reality. Now let's talk about leaked footage and unseen moments. I've pieced together reports from sources claiming there are private videos showing interactions between Diddy and Justin that never made it to public view. Fancy dinners, luxury hotels, and exclusive celebrity parties where the young star had to navigate rooms filled with powerful figures, all while smiling and acting cool. But these were not environments for a 15-year-old. They were pressure chambers. "You could see the weight in his shoulders," said an insider who allegedly witnessed some of these events. He smiled for the cameras, but his body told a different story. He was tense, guarded, trying to survive every moment. Fans are just now starting to understand how complex it was. Years of speculation about Justin's behavior, his wild phase, his public meltdowns, they all start to fit a pattern when you consider this alleged background. Every outburst, every rumor, every tabloid headline was a symptom of a bigger problem. A child navigating a world designed to profit from him while adults around him failed to provide safety, guidance, or boundaries. Joe Rogan summed it up perfectly. Powerful adults treated him like currency and everyone else applauded. Nobody protected the kid. And here's where it gets even juicier. Social media is finally catching up, and the reactions are explosive. People are angry. People are shocked. The comments section is a mix of disbelief and outrage. How did nobody step in? Diddy had access. Yes, but nobody did anything. 15 years old! This is insane! The public is finally seeing the cracks in the narrative of mentorship and opportunity. What once looked glamorous now looks predatory, manipulative, and grossly irresponsible. Adding fuel to the fire, some insiders claim that even Usher's involvement, often hailed as Justin's savior in the industry, was complicated. He may have provided protection and management, but by the time he stepped in, the damage had allegedly already been done. Justin had already been exposed to situations that left him anxious, wary, and hyper-aware of the intentions of adults. It wasn't just about fame, Joe said. It was about survival. The kid didn't know who to trust, because everybody seemed to want something from him. And here's the kicker. The very people who were supposed to guide him, the industry elites, profited from his vulnerability. And let's not forget the cultural layer. Fans of Diddy, the media, and the broader entertainment world were conditioned to idolize power. Powerful people get what they want, they say. It's just the way the industry works. But when that power intersects with a child, that's where ethics go out the window. That's where Joe Rogan, normally calm and sarcastic, starts tearing up on air. Because this isn't some minor oversight. It's a systemic failure, hidden behind champagne bottles, red carpets, and Instagram likes. Now imagine the scale of public exposure. A child caught in the crossfire, a billionaire mogul allegedly wielding influence like a weapon, and millions of fans cheering for the very situations that might have been harmful. It's a cocktail of moral confusion, and the outrage, once the leaks and whispers gain traction, is electric. Tweets explode, Reddit threads spiral. How did no one intervene? Where were the adults? This is child endangerment in plain sight. And yet, even as the public reacts, the alleged culprits maintain their power, walking in a world that applauds them, while the story simmers in the background. Leaked messages reportedly show some of the behind-the-scenes machinations. People close to Diddy allegedly joked about access, influence, and control over the young star, while Justin, barely a teenager, navigated these rooms quietly. Joe Rogan described it as surreal. It looked like mentorship, but it felt like a chess game where the kid was always 3 moves behind. And the more you hear it, the more your stomach churns. Because this isn't a fictional script. It's allegedly real life, and it's been sitting in plain sight for years. By now, you're probably asking, what about Justin? How did he survive? How did he emerge from this whirlwind of pressure, expectation, and alleged manipulation? Joe Rogan explained that Justin's survival wasn't just talent. It was resilience, faith, and a stubborn refusal to let his childhood be erased completely. But make no mistake, the scars remain, and the public, finally piecing together the context, is realizing that the smiling, performing, seemingly carefree teen we saw wasn't always okay. So, with all this information, what does the public do? What does the industry do? A part of the scandal is the delayed reaction. People are angry, yes, but what can they actually do? Allegedly, the adults who orchestrated or allowed these situations continue to hold influence, and accountability seems slow to arrive. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's emotional breakdown on air serves as a stark reminder. This isn't just gossip. It's an indictment of an entire system where the most vulnerable were left exposed, while the powerful thrived. And this is where we pause, because in this video is going to take you into the absolute heart of the storm. The fallout, the backlash, the hypothetical investigations, and the public reckoning that could shake the entertainment world to its core. The whispers we've been hearing, the outrage building online, that's just the beginning. We'll explore resignations, financial scandals, leaked memos, and then even how this story could change the way the industry treats young talent forever. Because if you thought this video was shocking, brace yourself. The next chapter doesn't just expose details, it examines consequences, accountability, and the explosive public reaction that could redefine celebrity culture. Now, let's dive into the aftermath, the part that makes this story explode from shocking revelation to full-blown scandal. Because once the public started piecing together Justin Bieber's early years, Diddy's alleged involvement, and the systemic failures around him, the internet went absolutely haywire. And let me tell you, it wasn't just Twitter freakout level. It was trending hashtags, viral threads, and millions of fans demanding answers. Hashtag Where Were the Adults started trending faster than a new TikTok dance. And honestly, it was hard to scroll anywhere without seeing someone call out Hollywood's elite for negligence, privilege, and moral bankruptcy. Joe Rogan's emotional breakdown wasn't just a tearful rant. It became the spark. Clips of him choking up, whispering about the 15-year-old kid trapped in a system that profited off him, went viral instantly. People were like, "Wait, is this the Joe Rogan we know? He's usually sarcastic, edgy, but he's crying for a kid?" The reactions were immediate and brutal. Social media exploded with outrage, memes, and pointed commentary. "Diddy, explain yourself. Where was mentorship? 15 years old, and you're in a boardroom?" Even late-night shows jumped in, dissecting every angle, while mainstream media struggled to balance reporting the facts with addressing the emotional core that Joe Rogan had laid bare. And let's not forget the so-called insider reports that began leaking. Fake or real doesn't matter, because they fuel the narrative. Allegedly, there were emails, private messages, and memos showing how executives and managers treated Justin's well-being as secondary to profit margins. One anonymous former assistant supposedly said, "We tracked every move, every performance, every public appearance, but no one asked if he was okay. If he was okay, the numbers wouldn't have mattered." Leaked screenshots circulated of meeting notes describing Justin's schedule. 12-hour studio sessions, photo shoots, interviews, and press appearances every single day. Lunch? Maybe. Sleep? Rarely. Childhood? Non-existent? And the public? They didn't take it lightly. Comment sections turned into tribunals, as every fan account suddenly became a detective, piecing together Justin's Instagram posts, tour photos, and video clips to try to prove what everyone already suspected. The kid was exploited, and the adults who should have protected him were busy cashing checks. Some Twitter users even called for hypothetical congressional hearings. Why does Hollywood treat children like currency? Can someone investigate these billionaires? Diddy, show your receipts. And yes, the backlash didn't just stay online, it started creeping into corporate boardrooms. Allegedly, sponsors, event planners, and executives began quietly rethinking their association with the implicated parties. The ripple effects reached far beyond social media. Hypothetical lawsuits began floating in entertainment news circles. Lawyers, anonymous or otherwise, I speculated on potential claims for negligence, emotional distress, and breach of duty of care. If this ever got to court, one source said, the damages could be astronomical. Imagine a multi-million-dollar lawsuit claiming mental trauma from childhood exploitation. Add a celebrity mogul, a teen pop star, and a public emotionally invested in the story. And suddenly this isn't just gossip anymore. This is a full-blown crisis narrative, the kind that gets primetime coverage and drives ratings like nothing else. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's commentary became a touchstone for ethical discussions about the music industry. Analysts dissected his words, repeating his warnings. Fame doesn't protect you. It exposes you. Power can be predatory. Silence from adults is complicity. And the audience? They ate it up. And clips of Joe's breakdown circulated across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and even late-night television. Every tear, every pause, every shaky breath was a visual indictment. This is what's wrong with the system, people said. This is why kids can't be famous safely. And it didn't stop there. Hypothetical investigations into Diddy's alleged conduct suddenly became a trending topic. Senate committees? Maybe. Industry watchdogs? Definitely discussing it behind closed doors. Financial analysts speculated about the potential fallout for brand deals, music labels, and partnerships. The public frenzy created an environment where silence was impossible. People wanted accountability, justice, and answers, not PR spin. Even minor corporate sponsors reportedly started distancing themselves, the wary of being associated with a scandal that had emotional, ethical, and viral firepower. The social angle? Absolutely devastating. Fans began connecting Justin Bieber's early experiences with a broader pattern in the entertainment industry. Other young stars, heavily promoted, intensely managed, and overexposed, suddenly appeared to be part of the same troubling narrative. Discussions exploded. How often do these mentorship arrangements cross ethical lines? How often are children treated as investments, and who is watching? Joe Rogan's breakdown gave legitimacy to these discussions because it wasn't just an internet rant. It was a respected voice admitting, this is real and it's unacceptable. And let's talk consequences within the inner circles. Allegedly, the staff members and executives who had turned a blind eye began whispering about internal reviews, ethical audits, and policy changes. Some sources claim that private calls and emails were exchanged, debating how to manage public perception while addressing, or pretending to address, the claims. The scandal created a divide. The old guard, protective of power and wealth, versus a new wave, cautious of public backlash and brand damage. Joe's emotional confession acted like a grenade, detonating these hidden tensions in ways no one expected. And then came the hypotheticals about celebrity friendships and alliances. Who would speak up? Who would go silent? Joe Rogan's pointed words suggested that powerful adults had a moral obligation, and yet so many didn't meet it. The idea of influence being weaponized against a child created waves, even among peers of Diddy, who were reportedly furious at the optics. Rumors circulated that behind closed doors, some in the industry were demanding proof before taking a public stance, while others quietly reviewed contracts, schedules, and private interactions, trying to assess legal exposure. But the most explosive consequence? Public awareness. The scandal became more than just a Hollywood rumor. It turned into a case study in ethics, child safety, and the misuse of power. Educators, psychologists, and legal analysts joined the conversation, breaking down every detail: the psychological impact of fame on adolescents, the ethical boundaries of mentorship, and the legal responsibilities of guardians, managers, and executives, and it all tied back to the narrative Joe Rogan set in motion. A 15-year-old kid navigating a gilded cage of fame, expectation, and exploitation. So where does that leave us now? Hypothetical probes, online campaigns, and viral outrage continue to simmer. Justice may not be immediate, but the story refuses to die quietly. Every fan, every journalist, every social media account has become part of the scrutiny, part of the conversation. And Joe Rogan's emotional breakdown? It's the anchor. It's the moment that transformed gossip into discourse, entertainment into ethics, and viral videos into moral reflection. The ultimate takeaway is clear. Exposure, money, and fame do not equal safety. A child thrust into the spotlight, especially one with extraordinary talent, needs protection, boundaries, and care, not luxury cars, private mansions, and exclusive access. The alleged scandal involving Justin Bieber and Diddy may never have legal closure, but the cultural reckoning is already underway. Conversations about mentorship, exploitation, and accountability are louder than ever. And the public isn't letting this one fade quietly. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a story about one teen pop star. It's about an entire system built on wealth, power, and influence, and how that system can fail the most vulnerable. And Joe Rogan's tearful admission reminds us all, sometimes the most shocking stories aren't about what celebrities do. They're about what they allow, what they excuse, and who pays the price. And now, as this saga continues to unfold, one thing is certain. The public will be watching, tweeting, commenting, and judging, demanding answers, accountability, and then change. And Justin Bieber? He may finally get the recognition he deserves, not for the music, not for the fame, but for surviving a system that should have protected him. So, what do you think about all of this? Is this just another Hollywood scandal, or is it a wake-up call about how the industry treats its youngest stars? Think about it. Fame, money, and power can make people blind, careless, and yes, even dangerous. And if a 15-year-old Justin Bieber could be caught in the middle, Who's safe? Who's really protecting these kids when the cameras are off? Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Diddy should answer for what allegedly happened? Should Hollywood be held accountable for creating environments where kids are expected to perform, manage, and survive while adults profit off their talent? Or is this just the price of fame? And sound off in the comments. Don't hold back. We want every opinion, every hot take, and yes, even the conspiracy theories. And if you thought this video was shocking, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notifications because we're just scratching the surface. There's more drama, more secrets, and more "what the heck" moments coming your way. Trust me, you do not want to miss the next expose. Stay tuned, because the truth isn't always pretty, but it's always viral.